I'm keeping the formalities very brief. I want to let y'all know I didn't read a lot of manga that had chapters this year. As such, my top 5 isn't as solid as I would want it to be. Nonetheless, I still think all of these chapters were good enough to place somewhere on this list. And as a disclaimer, I'm only choosing one chapter per series. With that being said, let's get right to it, starting with honorable mentions. First honorable mention, One Punch Man chapter 133. Although One Punch Man slipped a little this year with all of the constant redraws, this was the year of Tatsumaki, and this chapter showed why. Tatsumaki silenced anyone who may have doubted her strength with her performance against Psychos and looked good while doing so. But it was my boy Genos who stole the show and truly put folks on hush mouth by stepping up, aiding Tatsumaki in her battle with Psychos. It was a major payoff to people like me who always respected Genos regardless of the fuckery directed his way. Second honorable mention, At Dage, chapter 116. Yes, this is on the list despite the controversy. We had to separate mangaka from manga here. So, in this chapter, we saw Yonagi's training, which was her imitating other random people in order to use their faces. Through that, according to Yonagi, she stored around 30 faces, but what really impressed me was Yonagi's demeanor. After telling the judges how many characters she had within herself, she put on this ultra confident smirk and says, if 30 isn't enough, I'll make it 100. If that's not enough, I'll do 1,000. I could play any role, so give me one, please. My nigga, despite this just being acting, I was as turned up as I would be watching a fight. I beat my chest like it was Nate and I was Jake, and I screamed, let's go. My Yonagi was straight flexing on the competition, and she was not bullshitting. I loved every second of it. In addition, even though we'll never see this come into fruition, that chapter established a rivalry between Rain and Yonagi that seemed like it would bear great moments. Number 5, Citrus Plus, chapter 15. Admittedly, this chapter wasn't phenomenal, but it placed on this list for personal reasons. I've been following Citrus for about 5 years or so, and ever since I read the extra chapter for volume 3, I've been a big Harumin and Matsuri shipper. This chapter felt like fan service in a positive way, at least for me, because I finally got to see the Haru Matsu ship acknowledged, sealed with a kiss. And as a bonus, the dynamic of Harumin and Matsuri was expanded on in this chapter, showing the good side of Saburo Uda's writing, which lies in her characters. The art was beautiful as well, and Harumin made me confident in saying she has no equal when it comes to looks. Number 4, Kakiguri, chapter 76. First, there are no bad chapters with Sumika in them, and although we only had a brief appearance from her, I was happy either way. Sumika is an underrated gambler and an underutilized character, and I'm glad that her ability to read people was not forgotten. We also saw the Momobamis as babies, even though they were probably only about 2 to 3 years younger. It's just cool to see them outside of school and sorta happy. On to more important matters, this chapter set up a highly anticipated gamble between Kirari and Ririka, and while that gamble in of itself is cause enough to get hype, I think how it was initiated was even better. Ririka's relationship with Mary became a catalyst for her to gradually deviate from the mold of her younger sister, Kirari, thus becoming her own person, which is well shown by Kirari and Ririka being out of sync with their attempt to become the same person. I love confident Ririka, and the prospect of seeing Kirari actually serious in a gamble is more than tempting. Lastly, Terano issued a challenge to Yumiko, which pales in comparison to the Momobami brawl, but still showed promise as those two are high profile gamblers. Number 3, Kakiguri Twin, chapter 22. Mary is a character who takes losses and bounces back bolder and stronger, usually always pulling out a victory in a rematch. In fact, this happened 5 times in a row if I just count Twin. However, this lovely lady finally broke Mary's streak. Sachiko has had an ominous presence since her first appearance, but never did Mary, or maybe even us as readers, fully comprehend how dominant Sachiko was until this chapter. At the start, Mary displays her usual bravado after gaining a surge of courage, thinking she figured out the trick behind Sachiko's alleged cheating. Of course, Sachiko shattered Mary's resolve into pieces after revealing that she wasn't cheating, but was able to perfectly read Mary after just 3 hands. Seeing Mary lose the way she did was surprising enough given her history, but what stuck with me the most was Sachiko proving herself in one gamble. Sachiko downright toyed with Mary and made it clear there was a huge gap in talent between the two, and with Mary's loss, it set up a tough choice for her to make: become part of the Full Bloom Society or become Sachiko's house pet. And I'ma be honest, I know what decision I'd make if I was in Mary's shoes when I look back at how fine Sachiko is, but then again, the Full Bloom Society has Kurumi lighting up the place, so maybe I had to think a little harder. Number 2, Watamote, chapter 184. Simply put, this chapter was funny as hell. The fall of Fuka has been one of my favorite plot lines of Watamote, as it gets increasingly ridiculous with each new chapter. Here in this one, Fuka decides to prove that she's better than Tomoko by starting a rumor about herself that she's, for lack of better terms, a hoe. Fuka relishes in the fact that people are gossiping about her despite it ruining her reputation just because she wants to get back at Tomoko that bad. The battle between Tomoko and Fuka reaches the climax when Tomoko decides to test Fuka by having her demonstrate what a hand job is on a clay model, which Fuka does and fails thanks to her special technique that she calls Demon Jerk. Besides the degeneracy, the chapter was oddly heartwarming because Tomoko called her kohai, Shizuku, by her first name. This is significant because that was the wish Shizuku wrote in chapter 162 during the Tanaraba festival. Chapter 184 was a microcosm of Watamote, crude and awkwardly humorous, embedded with endearing moments. Number 1, Attack on Titan, chapter 131. No matter how serious Eren appeared to be about using the rumbling, I was ill prepared to actually see it play out. The chapter starts off by focusing on 2 kids, Ramsey and Halil. The subplot involving these two is that Ramsey is a thief, stealing and secretly stashing money, all in order to provide for his family, while Halil is warning Ramsey of the consequences, reminding him of the hand he already lost as a result of stealing. Then we see the rumbling begin from their perspective, and it starts to become apparent. Ramsey and Halil's subplot does not really matter in the end. Eren is about to trample all over them along with their dreams. While the event in of itself was horrific just thinking about it, because we don't know these people being killed, it's easy to remain detached from the tragedy right in front of our eyes. Isayama, however, personalizes the rumbling by introducing Ramsey and Halil to us and showing it from their point of view. We were able to experience a smidgen of the sense of hopelessness and anguish those boys felt when they saw a horde of 60-meter motherfuckers about to tootsie slide all over their asses, leaving nothing but a skid mark on the ground. And seeing Eren in the flashback going over the atrocity he was going to commit was a nice touch because it humanized him. Eren even acknowledges that Zeke's plan of euthanasia would be the more humane route since a significant amount of people wouldn't have to die, but because he can't accept that end, he continues to march forward. The freedom Eren sought lied beyond the walls, but beyond those walls stood another one. This wall was bigger and more sturdy. It was built by an aggregation of hatred, pride, fear, ignorance, among other things, over the course of hundreds of years. As a result, this wasn't a wall that could be climbed over, it could only be broken, meaning in short order, niggas had to die. I felt sympathy for Eren even though he's the one committing genocide, because it seemed as if he truly did not want to walk this path, but his ideal of freedom led him in this direction. It was a bittersweet chapter. Eren was going to achieve his freedom, but it would be at the cost of his humanity. On a lighter note, the Annie and Armin ship sailed while they were literally on a ship, so that was nice too. Annie was even blushing, which was pretty cute considering how stoic she normally is, so yeah, great chapter. Definitely my favorite Attack on Titan chapter and overall chapter this year. Finally, this video is coming to a close. Before I head out, I want to know y'all favorite chapters of this year. What chapter resonated with you the most? It doesn't have to be the best written or whatever, just what connected to you. But guys, day 9 is in the books. I'm Satsuki the Savage, and I am out.
Tasting your soul, you're not in control, just giving you goals. Scared of your past, the future is closed. The start is the end is a start. They both are the same, can't tell them apart. Nigga, that's cuz the intro was the outro.